Welcome to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. I'm your host, Johnny Mango. This is the place where we inquire about lifestyle, culture, and careers. Weekly, we meet with new guests that make a contribution of their insightful stories about their careers and how those careers impact their lifestyle and culture. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another podcast with Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. We have a really exciting guest today. She's really creative and interesting, and I think has a very interesting job. I would like to introduce you to Gail Jackson, who's the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Economic Collaborative of Northern Arizona. Hello, Gail, and welcome.
Well, hi, John. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Thank you. So, Gail, thanks for joining us today. I've always been kind of interested in economic development. And can you kind of tell us, because I think there's probably a lot of people that have heard those words but don't really understand what economic development is or does or happens. So tell us about economic development. Then we'd like to know a little bit about your organization.
Yeah. So, economic development is about making your community better. So it's kind of the process in which, the quality of life, economic opportunities come together. We really focus on, creating jobs and increasing productivity for existing businesses that are already here. And of course, increasing and enhancing the overall standard of living. Yeah. So, a lot of people, when they think of economic development, they think of growth. And obviously, we do believe in growth, because if you're not growing, then what's happening, right?
Right. I've always heard the word economic development in conjunction with, hey, we have this new business coming to town and the Economic Development Authority was instrumental in this. How does that work, or what happens?
So, well, at least with our organization, we have a group of people. Our mission is that with our partners, we provide quality economic development for our region. And when we're looking to bring in a new business, that's one element of economic development, which is business attraction. And we work together as a team to recruit businesses to the region that are in alignment with our community goals and values. So, and that could be anything from retail to a manufacturer to maybe a sports team. You just never know. There's a various sectors that we are targeted. Retail is one as well. It's not a primary sector, but it's certainly something that makes the quality of life better, and it certainly helps out the government partners with the tax income that it brings in.
Can you explain to us, Arizona is kind of a big place. What does your region, or who do you serve? Can you describe who you serve and how they all come together?
For sure. So we have many public and private partners that contribute into ECoNA, and our region is all of Coconino County. We serve Winslow, Arizona, which falls in Navajo County, and then we dip down into Camp Verde, Arizona, as well as Sedona, Arizona. And there are reasons that all of these organizations, all of these our region comes together like that. We've got data that shows us that people are traveling, 60 to 90 minutes to come to and from work. So those are some of that's one of the reasons why we came together. Workforce housing is a challenge for all of the places I just mentioned. And so together, we are coming together to try to work on that and to bring more housing into our region to be able to serve the people that live there and work there.
So it is a very broad area that you service. How many miles is it from let's say, where are you based at in Flagstaff, Arizona, right?
Yes.
So to Camp Verde, you mentioned Camp Verde. How far is that to Camp Verde?
I think that's about 50 miles, 50 to 60 miles, yes.
So that's almost an hour's drive.
Yes.
And how about Winslow? I've seen it on a map. That's pretty far away too.
It's 50 to 60 miles east of here, where Camp Verde is south. And then if you go north, all the way up to Page, you've probably got 2 hours there.
Wow. So
Yeah,
it's a huge area that you service.
that is correct.
Yeah. And how do you go about figuring out what type of businesses you talked about business attraction. How do you go about figuring out what businesses to attract or what industries to attract or how do you approach that?
So, everything we do, this really wise gentleman taught me this a really long time ago, but everything we do is based on data. So we look at data from several different sources. We just did a strategic plan that, kind of dug into some of our primary sectors, and it took information from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Census Bureau, and looked at existing businesses that we have in the region. Um, and it'll give you information on what sectors we should be pursuing. And so, of those sectors that came out was, advanced manufacturing, healthcare is a priority sector, astronomy, science based. And the reason that is because we have a lot of people that live in this region that have that specific skill set. And so we have a ready-made workforce that can help any business within those sectors get up and running quickly.
So so if I understand it right, you match the skill set of the community that's there to new businesses that could come to your area. I have that right?
Correct. Correct. And we have great educational partners as well, such as, we have Northern Arizona University, Coconino Community College, that can work with new employers to help train those that might already be here in specific areas for a new business that might want to come in. Or if there's an existing business that's here and wants to upskill people into a specific area, our educational partners can help with that.
Right. So what are some of the businesses that are in the area that you try to match to?
So I would say, some of the businesses that we have here, some of our major employers are WL Gore and Associates. They make medical devices. We have actually in the Flagstaff area, we have a high concentration of medical devices. There's Poba Medical, got Machine Solutions, and as I mentioned, WL Gore. But we also have UACJ Whitehall Industries, and they make car parts, electric auto parts for cars like Teslas and Rivians and all of the new electric cars that have come out in the last decade or so. So there's kind of an array here within Flagstaff area. As you go farther south into Camp Verde, they just had a major employer announce last year, Frame Tech, and they build trusses. So that's 300 new jobs for the Verde Valley region, which is super exciting.
So they build trusses for houses? It's like
Correct.
roofing trusses?
Yes.
I see. Okay. And you mentioned astronomy. I didn't know there was an industry around astronomy. What's that look like or what's that all
Well,
about?
astronomy is interesting. It's really science based at the end of the day. And Lowell Observatory has been here since I don't know the exact year, but they've been here for a very long time. And they just actually announced they just opened a new discovery center, and they have scientists that come from all over the world to study various elements of things in the sky, right? And they bring in conferences. They attract a lot of different things. There's also Catalyst Space Technologies, which they are studying or creating things but there's a synergy around astronomy, and there's also a big push for astrotourism here in northern Arizona, where the Flagstaff is the first international dark sky city. So it's really easy to see what's going on in the night sky when you don't have light pollution. There's a lot of laws and restrictions around, the amount of lumens that can be released into the sky so that we can keep that sky nice and dark, and research and development can continue around what's happening up there.
Okay. And I've read something about the Discovery Channel, and they have some type of astronomy thing going on in that part of the world. You know anything about that?
Yeah, the Discovery Telescope, that came online probably 7 or 8 years ago. And it's a telescope that sits out just east of town. Yeah, the Discovery Channel was a big part of that,
Okay.
about that telescope. But it attracts scientists from all over the world, astronomers that want to come and do some work here on that.
Interesting. So, what are the people like that live in this region? It's kind of a very rural region if you're talking about people driving 50, 60 miles to go to work. What type of people are drawn to this region?
Highly educated people are drawn to this region. Lots of engineers, people that really enjoy outdoor adventure. You know, this region is a very high tourism market. Tourism is probably one of the number one economic engines for this region. So we get visitors from all over the world because of our location to the Grand Canyon and several state parks and national parks here in and around Flagstaff. So we get lots of people that enjoy that. There's down in Sedona, you've got world-class mountain biking. People come and they ride their bikes and all the things, all the adventure sports that take place. Cliff diving down in Sedona. So um, it tends to be a higher educated person that comes to our region, but we've got everything here. We've got a lot of people that that live here, that are looking for new opportunities. So we're always trying to diversify our economy by bringing in new businesses so that we can serve as many people as we can.
I've heard that that Sedona is the spiritual place of some type, and they have these kind of spiritual energy places around. What you know anything about those?
Yeah, so Sedona has those spiritual energy places are called vortexes. And those vortexes, there's female and male vortexes. Supposedly, these vortexes interact with different people. Like if a female vortex is one that female humans feel much different. So people come from all around the world to be in these vortexes to be healed in some way. So it's quite amazing, and it's an energy that's coming up from the ground, a high magnetic energy. So, have you ever experienced one, John?
No, I haven't.
I don't know. I don't know.
So, can you give us an example of some of the businesses that have come to the area and why they've come?
Sure. I will. One of the more recent businesses that we recruited was UACJ Whitehall Industries. And like I mentioned earlier, they create auto parts for various cars. And when we began looking at them, actually, interestingly enough, they were looking at the Phoenix area, and they came up to Northern Arizona to take pictures. They were going to go to Page for the weekend, and they stopped and they saw a building that said for lease. So they pulled over and they looked at it and they were like, this is an interesting space. So they gave us a call and we chatted with them. And what we learned was that they were one of Tesla's major suppliers. And at that time, Tesla was looking at moving their operation in California to Fremont or somewhere in Texas. They weren't
Right.
quite sure where it was going to land. And so they thought Flagstaff would be a great place, kind of right in the middle. So if they land in, middle of California, we still are within a day's drive to them. Or if they go to Texas, we're in a day's drive there. So, and with all of the electric auto part and electric vehicle manufacturing taking place in Phoenix, this was a great place for them to land. And so
Let's
they
see.
came. They are in the process of still adding about 300 jobs, and we're grateful that they're here. So there's a synergy, which is why they selected
Yeah.
our region.
Who's one of the largest private employers in in the region? Who would that be?
One of our largest employers would be WL Gore and Associates. They've been around for over 50 years. Similar situation to how they landed here. Their owner, Mr. Gore, was driving here back in the 60s on vacation and really liked it. Opened up a plant, and I think right now they have how many plants they have, but they're scattered throughout the city of Flagstaff, which is interesting because they believed that anything over 180 people in one plant, you started to lose that face to face, and but anything 180 or less, people really knew each other, and it was like a small little family. So they've got a lot of small plants based in and around Flagstaff. They've also expanded into North Phoenix as well. They've got plants down there as well. So and that's about 90 minutes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. So they've got, even though they're a large employer, they don't have one giant plant. They have these kind of, for any better word, a micro plant of 180 people per plant. Okay. All right. Well, good. So, the other thing that we discussed was because we talk about lifestyle, culture, and career here, and life in motion. So you were telling me earlier before we got on about kind of what it's like to raise a family, manage an entity, and be active in the communities, and still go to your kids' hockey sessions. Can you comment on that? We're kind of shifting gears here, but let's talk about being a mom and being in business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that one of the main reasons people choose to live in this region is because we do have the best quality of life, I feel. We're surrounded by national forests. We're surrounded by natural beauty. Yes, I am raising two beautiful daughters right now with my husband, and sometimes it can be a challenge. Life is changing as they get older. There's lots of different sports activities and things to get them to and from, and they'll always come first. So they're my priority. Sometimes there's extra long days, coming in early, working late so that we can accommodate enjoying their, whether it's orchestra, hockey, volleyball, you name it. But it's all worth it in the end.
So how do you keep that in balance? How do you, as an individual, as a mother and as a CEO, okay, those seem like both huge, huge responsibilities. How do you keep that in balance? How do you do that? How do you make all that happen?
Well, I think there's a couple different ways, right? We live much differently now, where technology gives us that ability to be able to do that, right? So we can respond to things via, a phone, or we can jump on a Zoom call. We don't always have to be in the office, which is nice. But I think for me, when you say balance, it's being present and in the moment with whatever it is you're doing. So be the best person that you can be with whatever you're doing at that moment. So if I'm sitting in the bleachers at the hockey game, that's what I'm doing. I'm in full mom mode, and giving all my attention to my daughter in that moment. And that, to me, really helps me keep my balance. And yeah, I'm just really grateful to be able to, have the opportunity to take advantage of all of the great things that we have up here in Northern Arizona.
So do you work from home at times, or do you go to the office, or how does that work? Because I've had different people say different things about, yeah, I can take care of my family because I work from home.
Yeah, no, I come into the office most of the time. I would say 90% of the time I work from the office, and that's just because I like it here. It's set up, it's quiet. But there will be times where my kids do stop in. They'll have to take the bus downtown so that I can give them a ride to where they need to go. And honestly, it's been nice because it opens their eyes to, hey, what does mom do for a living, right?
Yeah.
What does she actually do? So that's really fun. But yeah, no, most of the time I'm in the office. I know that it's working from home right now it feels like it's the buzzword. A lot of companies are bringing people back. I try not to use that option unless I'm not feeling well, or, I think in person gets better results. So that's just a personal preference on my end, but it
Right.
is nice to know that that option is available.
So what I heard you say was that with today's technology, it's a little bit easier to stay on top of, like you said, where your children are or what their needs are while you might be in the workplace, or vice versa. Is that, am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, do you remember? I don't know, John. Do you tell me? Could you track your kids via a phone when they were younger?
And they didn't have phones. They didn't,
Yeah,
yeah,
see?
my kids didn't have phones until high school.
Yeah.
And I
Everything. Go ahead.
no, I see people now. I see kids in kindergarten with phones now. I mean, it's like kind of crazy to me, but I'm a little bit older.
Well, I think our society has really pushed kids into um, the need to have a phone. Like if they want to ride the bus, they have to have the phone to have the app to be able to get on the bus. All their grades are tracked online via an app. The world is set up to make these kids have phones. We certainly have downtime on our phones at home just so that we can give our eyes and our brain a break. And I think that that's really necessary. Those little phones can take over your life before you know it.
Yeah, how do your kids handle that? The down what you call downtime. I'm interpreting as you can't be using your phone right now.
Yeah, we they have downtime. I think it's like 9 o'clock until 7 o'clock in the morning. But these kids are smarter than us. They find ways around it. But they can't have their phones in their rooms at night, and they use it. We use like we if we're running late, it's nice to be able to instantly get them a message to let them know there's if something's happened and we're going to be delayed in picking them up, or if they forget something, we can drop it off. It is a lot quicker, but it can also create issues as well, right? Like
Yeah,
getting on the social media and being exposed to things that maybe they're not quite ready for from a maturity standpoint, but
right.
we certainly do our best.
Yeah. Well, let's just swing. We only have a few more minutes, but let's swing back to economic development for a couple of minutes. Can you give us an inkling of any companies you're talking to now that you're attracting? Or is that something you guys don't really talk about until it actually happens? How does that work? Do you compete with other communities, or what happens?
We do compete with other communities, and we we're not the ones that are going to announce when a new business is coming. We leave that up to the business, and we certainly aren't going to say anything until they open that door for various reasons, right?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah,
world is changing all the time, and we don't know what we don't know. We had a business, Big Lots, right, that opened a new store here in Flagstaff. They hadn't been in it maybe 3 months, and nationally they announced a bankruptcy, right? So
yeah.
that store was one that was affected. You never know what's going to happen in the world.
Uh,
So what we tend to do is focus a little bit more on some of the infrastructure developments that's needed, so that we have sites that are ready when we do have that business that's ready
so
to enter
you're
the
you
market.
are you a government entity, or are you a private entity? How does that work
Yeah,
for
we're a nonprofit entity. So we're nonprofit. We are supported by public and private dollars. And so we don't advocate for, we're not in the government lobbying business, but we certainly are in the relationship business. So we have lots of relationships with our elected officials and things of that nature, so that, when we have projects or there is a need that comes in, we already have that relationship established. So, but we leave the lobbying to some of our chamber partners in and around the region. They're very good at that. And yeah.
So, do the governments get very, very involved? Let's say you've got like you talked about this auto parts manufacturer. Do the governments? the government and Flagstaff, do they get involved in that at all, or they strictly let you handle everything? How's that work?
Yeah, no, the governments do get involved. Obviously, they want to see new business come as well because that helps, make whatever jurisdiction they have more prosperous as well. So they do, most of the entities have an economic development sector, and most of them are supportive of business growth and innovation and entrepreneurship and all of those things. And, when we bring in a new business, that's going to only increase government revenue. So it helps them, right? They'll be able to collect more tax revenue because likely that business will be bringing in some of their own talent, recruiting their own talent, and having a new business in a region or a specific government entity, increases the ability for that company to get involved, to help fund various things happening in the region, little league sports, things of that nature. Like they become a community partner. So our government entities are very, very involved when
I
it
see.
comes to recruitment.
Yeah. Okay. So how would let me ask you, how would anybody get in touch with the Economic Collaborative of Northern Arizona? What's your website?
Yeah, if you go to econa-az.com and click on our team, you'll see we're actually getting ready to update our website, but it has a list of our board of directors, and you can email me directly from there. And yeah, if you have a new business or you need some assistance with economic development, please reach out. We'd love to connect you.
So that's ECoNA-az.com.
That is correct.
Okay, got it. All right. Well, Gail, thank you for your time today. And folks, we've been having a conversation with Gail Jackson, who's the president and chief executive officer of the Economic Collaborative of Northern Arizona, who provided some insight about what the term economic development really means and how it is to be a person that works and balance family life a little bit too. So, Gail, thanks for being here today. And we look forward to meeting you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. You have been listening to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. Subscribe to hear a new and unique guest each week as they comment on their life's journey and share experiences with lifestyle, culture, and career. You can always find us at minuteswithmango.com.